It's even worse in places like Lagos, Nigeria. Africa's largest metropolis has a weak and poorly maintained electrical grid. Even with diesel-powered backup generators, the citizens of Lagos have a hard time fighting the heat. At first, people think this is just another heat wave. But this rise in temperature is the beginning of the end of the world. While hurricanes lash the East Coast, tornadoes spring up in the flatlands of Texas. And 200-mile-an-hour winds rip right through the middle of Dallas.
We'll get more tornadoes, more crazy weather, more fronts. Things will just get more extreme all over.
Biological systems have a thermostat, a set temperature range, where the chemical reactions that take place in our body are at their comfortable, optimal point. And only a few degrees up or down can have severe and drastic effects on the human body, on other biological systems.
In the early 21st century, heat waves killed tens of thousands of Europeans after temperatures rose between 95 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
And that was just a little bit higher than average temperatures. That wasn't like the extremes we would see if the Earth is heading towards the sun.
In Dubai, despite the desert heat outside, the grand hotels and shopping malls maintain an average indoor temperature of 78 degrees. And it's always below freezing in the indoor ski resort. Without air conditioning, supported by a massive electrical infrastructure, cities like Dubai or Las Vegas, Phoenix or Houston can't function. In these cities, the cool air is still blowing. For now.
As people are beginning to need that 24 hours a day cooling to try to stay alive, it's going to put severe stresses on the power grid.
The blowing sand blocks streets and roadways and attacks people with a vengeance. Across the American West and Southwest, thousands die of suffocation, and many more flood hospitals with lung infections. Across the world, the death toll is rising. Over 1 million people have died from hurricanes, sandstorms, and heat stroke. But survival at the poles is anything but easy.
You're going to inhospitable places to begin with. You're trading one inhospitable spot for another. You're going to a place with no infrastructure, with no farming, with no food. The Mississippi Delta is reaching into Oklahoma. It's absolute chaos.
In Lagos and across the world, electricity is just a flicker. Throughout Africa and much of Asia, cities are cemeteries. The strain on the grid also threatens those who hoped to escape death through cryogenics. Several hundred people have had themselves frozen at the point of death in the hope of eventual revival. Their bodies have survived the global heat wave until the power grid, overwhelmed by the need for air conditioning, finally shuts down. Across the entire American Southwest, even the enormous cooling systems in large hotels have reached their limits.
Large industrial air conditioners can reduce a 120-degree day down to the mid-70s in your room. But if it's 160 outside, sure, you're gonna be hanging out at 105, maybe 106 degrees. You're drinking water every half hour in order for your biological functions to continue functioning. 105 inside a building with no airflow? That's horrifying.
In addition to humans, of course, animals will start to go extinct. It will start with animals who can only tolerate a small range in temperature, animals that are used to a very particular environment. But then it will start expanding to more and more animals. There are animals that are adapted to the desert already, but they may actually not survive as long as you think, because the deserts are some of the places that are gonna get the hottest first.
This is the shutdown of biological systems.
So you're going to have essentially an unbearable steam bath at a temperature of boiling water.
It's the worst sauna on Earth.
With an average air temperature more than 200 degrees, surface life on Earth has ended. And so has any hope of seeking refuge. In space.
You might think that a natural escape route for us, should such a catastrophe like this happen, would be to launch a planetary ark of some sort, and let's go live on Mars.
However, even if there were time to build and launch spaceships, it would be impossible to know where to aim them.
Calculations that we do when we're launching spacecraft rely very heavily upon the precise predictability of where things are in the solar system. The Earth is now falling into the sun. That's going to put everything else in the solar system out of whack.
If you were NASA or some other space agency, Earth is no longer at exactly the same position as you thought it was.
There's no way to escape this. You can't even escape it in space. If we haven't colonized Mars by then, we're never going to.
So we have no out at this point as this disaster unfolds.